What's up, guys? Midwest 2 Review here, back again. Let me turn down the radio. I recently got some comments on my GMTK Snap-on mobile toolbox video, and people were asking me, hey, what tools do you most use or do you use most often? And so I decided that I would give you guys some of my feedback about what I use most often. Now, I will say that that's going to be case by case, right? Not only is it going to be case by case for me, but it's going to be case by case for you, because every individual will have a certain level of aptitude, and that will dictate what they use. Okay, so in terms of my mainstays, right? Now, I got a lot of different tools, a lot of different places. So we're going to try to do this, and we're going to try to do it pretty quickly. Now, if you're a professional level mechanic, you don't need to hear what a DIYer is going to talk about in terms of his most frequently used tools, okay? But if you are a DIY, you're probably going to want to listen in. Okay, so let's start over here, talk about sockets, and really they're not in here. So I don't use a lot out of this drawer. This drawer was put together and constructed primarily to support the channel in terms of finding deals. So I don't do a whole lot of grabbing out of this drawer. If I'm gonna grab it, I'm probably gonna get like these low profile sockets from Capri. I have those in both 3/8 and 1/2 inch drive. They're great with stubby impacts like your Milwaukee impacts. They're really, really good with that. And I have these in SAE, which are the 1/2 inch drive, and these in 3/8 drive, and they're metric. I use these a lot. I love them. The low profile gets in a lot of tight places. In terms of some of the other metric sockets, I use a lot of metric, and here lately with the new projects, the C10 and the 58 GMC, I've been using more SAE. But if I'm doing my traditional projects on cars, I don't do a lot with SAE. In terms of what I grab, if I'm going to grab it, it's going to probably be the 1/2 inch drives will probably be the mid-length stuff. I seem to grab that more so than I do like a stubby socket or whatever. Just that's what I like to use. Let's see here. What else? I don't use a lot of Torx. Occasionally I have something that needs a Torx. I have a lot of different Torx sockets, but I don't find myself grabbing them very often. The same thing is with universals. I don't use universals a lot. I could not tell you the last time I needed. Well, I guess I could. I was working on a tractor and I needed to use a 15 millimeter swivel. But other than that, I don't grab them a whole lot as a DIYer personally. I can pretty much get to most locations on the things that I work on, but it is something depending on what you're doing and what level of aptitude you have and projects, etc. You may have to get swivels. Now, I have them all, but I don't find myself grabbing them very often, okay? Let's see here. I do, because I work on my own motorcycles, I do use like these specialty type sockets. These are like the stubby Torx, and I have the stubby hex. You put these on like a 13 millimeter or 12 millimeter wrench, ratcheting wrench, and you can get into really tight places. So I do grab those quite often, whether I'm working on my bike or someone else. Like I said, SAE, I grab it more so now, but in the past, I didn't really use a whole lot of it. And if I'm going to grab a socket out of here, it's going to probably be, once again, a mid-length or possibly even a 1/4 inch drive. So in terms of sockets, that's pretty much what you will see me grabbing out of this drawer frequently. Okay. In terms of ratchets, I have a lot of ratchets. Once again, these ratchets are more or less for you guys to look at and ask questions about. I don't really grab anything out of here. Let's be honest. This is more of a show, if you want to call it showboating, whatever you want to call it. But this is more or less for my viewers who like to see a lot of different cool ratchets. So that's why I have them. Now, if I'm going to grab a ratchet, I'm probably going to come over here to this auxiliary box, and I'm going to grab like my Capri. I got a 1/2 inch here. I got a 3/8 somewhere in the shop. But I'm going to probably grab one of those. Now, when it comes to really long ratchets for DIY people, you don't really, I'm thinking, excluding 1/2 inch drive, when it comes to 3/8 drive or 1/4 inch drive, you don't need a super, super long ratchet. Does it help? Yes, it can. But if you don't have the ability to get your vehicle up in the air, you're going to be very limited to how often you can use a really long 3/8 drive. And I'll show you the Capri just as a talking point. This Capri here is really long. This is a 3/8 drive fixed head ratchet. Works really, really well. This thing is absolutely fantastic. But unless you're changing, like you're trying to change a serpentine belt, trying to remove like, I don't know, maybe a suspension part or something like that, you're not going to use it very often. You'll find yourself grabbing something more like this. This is a cornrow, which cornrow ratchets suck in my opinion, but something like this. So maybe a ratchet more in line of like a flex head. I don't really care what brand, whether it be Capri or Tecton or Ultra Tools or Gear Wrench, but something like this length is probably the best DIY length possible. Reason why I say that is because it's long enough to let you benefit from having leverage, but it's not so long where it's not usable, not functional. So when they get too long, they become not so much functional, depending on what type of work you do and what type of equipment you have. Because like I said, if you can't get your car off the ground, you don't get a chance to use those really long ratchets very often. I'm just my opinion. 1/4 inch drive stuff. I have quarters laying around. As you see, this old round head from SK, I use it quite often. It's just a really good ratchet. It's something I can grab really quickly, and it's small. I can do a lot with it. Stubby ratchets, I will use these from time to time, okay? In terms of screwdrivers, once again, I don't do a whole lot of grabbing out of my screwdriver box over here. Once again, this is more or less for you guys to look at and ask questions. If I'm going to grab a screwdriver, it's probably going to come out of this drawer here. You see I have a lot of them that are missing. They're all around the shop. But I'm going to grab something out of here. I don't really have a preference per se. If I'm going to do something that's really oily and dirty, I'm probably not going to grab a hard handle. I'm probably going to try to see if I've got something like this where it's got a little bit of a rubberized grip on it. And that seems to work good for me. Now, I have a lot of different brands, cheap brands, expensive brands, etc. But that's just what I use, okay? Corner wells are great. They have a completely fully molded, rubber molded. These things work great. But once again, we're not talking about brands because I don't care about brands at the moment. But I typically grab stuff out of here, okay? Extensions for a DIY perspective, I would say get yourself some good extensions. I think Gear Wrench offers locking extensions. Aries, I think, does as well. Find yourself some locking extensions. Those work really good, and I use these a lot. I got these. My buddy Steve-O hooked me up with this set here, and as you can see, I use these things a lot. I've got a lot of different extensions kind of here, there, everywhere, but I find that those that I just showed you, the Cornwell ones, work great. I've got a bunch of Snap-on in here as well, but I don't go digging in that drawer for extensions. I pretty much grab these, and the reason why I grab them is because they're impact and they're locking, for no other reason than that. I do have this guy here. I have not used it yet. I'm waiting for the day where I got to do some suspension work, which is probably coming up pretty soon here. I can't wait to use that, but I can see this thing getting a lot of use going forward. All right, in terms of wrenches, I don't really grab a lot of stuff out of this box here at all. I come over here. Sorry, my shop's a mess. We've been doing a lot of different projects here lately. I primarily come over here and grab something out of my cart here. I've got a bunch of different types of wrenches that I kind of grab from. These are Cobalt USA ones. I have a bunch of double open end angle wrenches. I pretty much grab stuff out of here. Why? Because it's just convenient. I can roll this cart around the shop, and I have other stuff that I may need along the way as well, and it's just convenient, okay? Double box in like these are great. I will say, once again, it goes upon that same extra long principle, and having room to do it. For the price that these wrenches cost, this is a set from Capri, and these are my favorite. I have a lot of other brands, but the Capri ones are my absolute 100% favorite. I would recommend getting a set of those. I mean, I don't use them as much as I probably would like to, but that's just something that's going to save your butt in the future, and it's just worth having. Okay. Stuff like stubby wrenches, yeah, I don't grab it very often. It's cool to have it when you need it. Specialty sockets and bits and stuff like that, yeah, I use a lot of that stuff. I have some cheaper stuff laying around the shop, but I'm quickly learning that cheap shit doesn't always play. This is a brand new socket. I never used it. It's cheap. It broke today trying to take out one single bolt out of a OBS Chevy, trying to remove the seat belt that's bolted to the floorboard. I put it on a 3/8 drive, was my Cobalt, and it literally broke as soon as I hit the trigger. So don't buy cheap stuff. This is why you don't buy cheap things that are like critical. Like a socket, it's on my scale of criticalness, it's not as critical. You can get away with a lot of different brands of sockets. But when it comes to things like Torx and hex bits, you need to get something that's got a little bit more quality into it, because this is a very low quality, and this, you can see how that sheared off. I mean, it's just broke. That's a ductile failure there. So like if I'm going to grab something out of here, like that case in point, I grabbed that one today because I needed a T45 and that was the only T45 I had. But I have a lot of different other brands that are smaller sizes. I will come in here and grab something out of the box out of here. But this is all like specialty stuff. This is stuff that doesn't correlate with that drawer here, although we do have some Torx and stuff like that in here. But they're like, some of these are bigger. I guess you guys can't really see it. Some of these are bigger down here, but I didn't grab those. I don't even know what, oh, that's, what are these? Okay, never mind. I didn't even grab those. I probably should have, but I was using an impact gun, so if we're following the rules, I grabbed the right type of socket for the job. But that's what I do. I'll come in here and grab some stuff. I don't grab all the 3/4 stuff very often. It's just, you know, whatever. Like these 12-point sockets, I've never even used them yet. I have not found an application where I needed a 12-point socket. Once again, wrenches. I don't use these very often, if at all. I go to my auxiliary cart, my roll around cart, and I grab that. This stuff pretty much just sits here for show. I do use these often here lately. These are some impact sockets that they're SAE. I've been using these a little bit more. You see those two here have the finish a little worn down. Those are the two that I use, which is like 1/2 inch and 9/16, but whatever. Extensions, I haven't touched these since they got in this drawer. Haven't used any of these specialty tools yet, haven't needed to. Air impact stuff, I do use it often here. The air hammer I've been using a lot. The grinders occasionally. And I bought this at an auction. I have not used it yet. All right, and aside over here, this is just an extra set of screwdrivers that I picked up off Facebook Marketplace. I've never used them. Flex head ratcheting wrenches, really awesome for DIYers. I would highly recommend getting yourself a set of these. These things come in handy a lot. If there's one tool that I would recommend a DIYer having, it would be ratcheting, flex head ratcheting wrenches. They will help you out more times than not. I'm not even joking with you. Get yourself some Gear Wrench or Tecton, whatever your brand of the week is. Get them. They'll help you out. Specialty tools, adjustables. That's something else. This is a right adjustable. I also have Ulsa tools, Blue Point, but adjustables, for me personally, I love them, especially if you're trying to crack a bolt free and you need to hold a nut in order to not let it spin on you. Adjustable wrenches are great for that because you don't have to worry about trying to figure out which side is going to work. And it saves a little bit of stress on your wrenches, which you don't really want to be beating the hell out of. Whereas these are nice thick metal, typically more thicker than a traditional wrench, and they're able to take it. Specialty stuff in here, multimeter. I do grab my multimeter quite often, but that's just based upon the amount of work that I do. Heat gun occasionally, and I do have magnetic tools. Get yourself a magnetic tool. If you don't have a oil filter wrench, make sure you get yourself an oil filter wrench. That's something that I do grab quite often. I do all my own maintenance on my vehicles. Drill bits, obviously every once in a while, and those are all specialty tools down there. Once again, like I said, they're great when they're usable. They're not always usable. Pliers, all the friggin' time. Vice grips, large adjustables, needle nose. Get yourself some of these guys. I don't care what brand you pick. It does not matter if you're doing DIY, because you're probably not going to be using them as much as a professional technician is. But I would say get yourself pliers. Make sure you have a good variety of pliers. I go through this jar like crazy. This is why I built it like the way that I did. I use pretty much everything that you see in here. I use it throughout the day, whether it be trying to bend metal or hold something while I'm trying to screw something else, whether it be cutting, stuck bolts. I use a pair of vice grips today because the seat belt bolt in the truck was not coming free, so I used those. Cutting tubes, cutting cables, etc. Having to reach into areas where I don't have good access, freeing up fuel lines, all that. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite jars in this whole box. Is my plier jar. Hammers, God. I use hammers all the time. I do a lot of body work here lately. I have a lot of different hammers, as you guys will see. I use these all the time. It does not matter brand per se. You can go get Tecton. You can go get Ulsa tools. You can go get Capri tools. You can go get anti-vibes. You can whatever you want to buy, Snap-on, etc. Just make sure you have yourselves a good arrangement of those. Dead blows I've been using a lot more here with all the body work that I've got. You see I've got a bunch of Capri. That's because Capri sponsors the channel. I got these from them to test out and trial out. I only had like one or two, and I just got this one here recently. I did not have this one for years. I was working off an old Harbor Freight one, which had basically seen its better day. But these things are good. Now, what you can use these in trying to get a wheel free, trying to if you're trying to crack a bolt or a nut. And you need something to kind of pound on your wrench. Don't act like you've never done that. These are great because you don't damage the tool, but you still get a chance to get the oomph that you need in order to help break it free. So, having maybe a big one and a medium-sized one is really all you need. Impact guns and stuff like that. Let's talk about that real quick. Having a good set. This is something I recommend that you don't go cheap on. I see guys rocking Ryobi and all that other crap. I'm not a Ryobi fan. I know a lot of people are. I'm Milwaukee and Snap-on. I believe in getting stuff that I know that works. I've been running these things. This one here I got from Justin Dow years ago. Justin Dow beat the hell out of this thing. I won it on a raffle or something. I can't even remember what it was. And I now beat the hell out of it. And it's still going strong. This thing is absolutely fantastic. There's your part number. It's not the new one because I heard the new ones are junk. But this one here, I don't even know what year it is. But shout out to Justin Dow for hooking me up with this thing. And I still use it today. I just used this today, matter of fact. But get yourself a good brand. Get Milwaukee. Get DeWalt. Milwaukee or DeWalt. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just get those brands. And I use these things all the time, whether it be grinders or drills or impact guns, you name it. Something I don't use very often is this right angle. If you ever thought about getting this is something that I don't use very often. It looks like I do. It's all beat up. I've used it from time to time, but this is probably one of the least used power tools that I own. I just don't have a need for it all the time. It's great doing suspension work, I've been told, getting into some tight areas, but I don't have a lift. So I see it once again, I don't have a lift to be able to take advantage of getting this in places that I need to. I could just do the same thing with like a wrench. So, all right, we're almost done with this videos. Specialty tools, we don't need to talk about. We talked about ratchets, pry bars. I use them all the time. Pry bars, big ones, small ones, some as big as your head, whatever you got to get pry bars, guys. And don't stay away from the offshore stuff. Get American made so you're not prying on something one day. Because when you get a pry bar, more than likely you're going to be giving it all the beans, and plus your best friends too. And so if you're going to be doing that, then you need to make sure you got something that's going to hold up. So get yourself a really good pry bar, USA made pry bar, and you won't go wrong on that. Something like these Ulsa Tools adjustable pry bars are awesome because there's times where you just can't get the right angle or you're working in a confined space. These things work out great because they have that articulating head and you can adjust that head to pick up a certain angle. I don't know if it's like 5-degree increments or whatever it is, but these things work great. And then, you know, obviously, depending on how sharp or how pointy the tip is will determine how many places you can get it. But these things work great. I think Ulsa Tools still offers these. Check them out for these. Talked about pry bars. Scraping tools I don't use very often. You probably won't either, but, you know, we have them. Picks, don't use them very often. I've got all types of them, big ones, small ones. I don't use them very often, but depending on what you do, you may. Once again, we talked about pliers. I don't touch these pliers very often. The LN47, ACF 47s or wherever they are at, I can't even figure it out. Oh, these ones here, I use these occasionally, not a lot, but I got them because everybody else got them, so I was basically following suit. But, you know, just a standard needle nose pair of pliers works great. Bolt cutters I use a lot, cutting cables and things like that. I use these types of pliers a lot. Funny enough, I don't use the Knipex like at all. I have a cheap set that I picked up somewhere. I don't know if it was, I think maybe it was even Harbor Freight. I'm not sure. They're out somewhere. I don't see them. They must be somewhere out on the floor because they're being used. We talked about screwdrivers. We talked about wrenches. Specialty tools, like stuff that's in my side cabinet here, I don't use it very often. You know, I'll do battery tools to check the batteries and do the battery health, which I got to do a review of this Foxwell tester here. I got to get that done. So I'll be working on that eventually here. But I use this is something I use a lot, whether it be for my own vehicles or other people's vehicles. I use that a lot. Endoscope, not very often, but battery checking tools, I use that a lot, and pulling codes, things of that nature, so I could do some research. But other than that, I don't really touch a lot of this stuff. I got it because I'm trying to be proactive and because I don't know what I'm going to get into in the future. That's why I have as much as I have. But other than that, yeah, I don't touch this stuff very often. So I don't get in here very often. Let me see here. All right, let's go across the shop. You can see stuff that I've got out. This is kind of, you want to say, well, what are you using right now? This is pretty much what you see right now, which is out. That kind of shows you what we've been doing here lately. Same thing up here. You can see what I've been using. You know, the Milwaukee here, the 1/4-inch drive. Thing's awesome. I love it. You know, this is what's being used at the moment. Oh, and then in this box here, so I worked on my brother's truck today. Look at all the rust that came off the truck. I had to put new flooring in for him. I welded in his passenger side floor, which was non-existent. Well, that's pretty much the floor that we had to work with. Inside of here, what do I use a lot? I use everything in here. If I'm at the salvage yard, I'm probably grabbing this 3/8 drive sockets over here. I use those a lot. Obviously, you're going to use a hammer a lot. Pry bars, all types, we're going to be using those. Ratchets, I've got I got a nice assortment of them, but primarily, funny enough, I think I said this on some older videos. This old Snap-on like wobbly flexi head thing, it's worn out beyond compare. But I use it a lot because I can get it into a lot of locations. But once again, look, it's that length of, what is that, 12 inches, 14 inches? I don't know what they are. But this is what I use a lot. And I've got some updated ones in here, like this Ulsa Tools one. They're USA made version of it. I got this in as like a replacement. So when that does completely wear out, I've got it in here. Let's see. 1/2-inch drive stuff I don't use very often. 12.3/8 drive I don't use very often. And primarily I'm running to these sockets here on the side. Brand omit it. And then I'm going to be using these impact 3/8 drive. These are the ones I use a lot. You can tell there, you can see all the wear on them. I use those a lot. So primarily it's the chrome sockets or the impact. And why do I use chrome in both impact? It all depends on what I'm doing, really. Wrenches, obviously you're going to be using that a lot. Screwdrivers, the same thing. Impact guns, whatever, you know the deal on that. Ratchets, yeah. The big 1/2" drive, yeah, I'm going to be using that. And I have assortment of pliers in here. So in this box, that's what I use for the most part, most often. So what am I doing? I'm primarily, if I'm going to the salvage yard, I'm pulling suspension parts, or I'm pulling interior parts, seating, dashboard components. I may pull engine parts depending on what it is, if I can test it. And so depending on what type of part I'm actually pulling will dictate what I use in that box. But those are the ones that I use most frequently. And so like I said, what you see out in the shop is what's being used right now. And this is that one cheap set that I was telling you guys about where we broke the T45. Look, you can see how I broke another one too. This is a T30. Broke that one off. Wait a minute. Yeah, the I can't see. T30. Broke that as well. So don't buy cheap Torx, guys. Buy a decent brand, because cheap Torx don't hold up. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's all I have for today. Just a quick little video just responding to some questions that I received on a previous video. All right, that being noted, I'm out, guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace.